Back in September of 2025, something really strange happened on the internet. Almost overnight, a massive chunk of the web's traffic data, well, it just disappeared. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happened and what it revealed about the ghost in the machine. I mean, seriously, what if you woke up one morning, you logged into your analytics, and the graph looked like it had just fallen off a cliff? And it wasn't just you, it was almost everyone. That's pretty much what happened, and it kicked off a whole wave of chaos and confusion. The number itself is just staggering. 87.7%. That's the percentage of websites that saw this insane vertical drop in something called search impressions. But here's the thing. This wasn't a sign that the internet was breaking. Nope. This was the first clue that a huge part of how we measure the web was, well, kind of built on an illusion. Okay, so let's play detective here. First things first, we need to find the culprit behind all this chaos. And to do that, we have to look at a tiny, seemingly harmless bit of code that was secretly powering a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Meet our culprit, a little thing called the n=100 parameter. For years, you could just tack this onto a Google search URL, and boom, instead of the usual 10 results, you'd get 100 all on one page. Now, Google never officially supported this, but it was kind of like an open secret, a powerful little shortcut that an entire ecosystem of tools absolutely depended on.
And here's where it gets really wild. The entire SEO tool industry, we're talking the big players like SEMrush and Ahrefs that millions of businesses use, was basically built on this one little trick. It let them track rankings, check out competitors, and just slurp up enormous amounts of data super fast and super cheap. It was the engine under the hood for the whole shebang.
So you can imagine the panic when Google just switched it off. This slide shows the immediate impact perfectly. All of a sudden, to get those same 100 results, these tools had to work 10 times harder, making 10 separate requests. We're talking a 10x spike in their costs, their server load, their complexity, everything. It happened overnight. And after days of total chaos, Google's response was, let's just say, very corporate and very brief. They put out this statement, basically saying, yeah, that was never an official feature, so it's not our problem. And just like that, a trick that had been used for years was officially dead. So the tools were broken, and the data was a mess. But as the dust started to settle, this whole event revealed something way more shocking than just a broken tool. That missing traffic, it wasn't what anyone thought it was. This is where we finally get to expose the ghost in the machine. And this is the absolute key to the whole mystery. Those millions upon millions of impressions that just vanished into thin air, they weren't from real people, not a single one. They were an illusion, a digital phantom created entirely by bots. It was all ghost traffic. So how on earth did this happen? It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. A bot from an SEO tool would use that and_num=100 trick to load a page with 100 results. Now, your website might be buried way down at position 99. A human would never see it. But to Google's computers, just by being on that page, your site got credit for an impression. Now, multiply that by millions of automated checks a day, and you get a ton of artificial data. And this finally solved a huge puzzle that had been bugging people for years, something they called the Great Decoupling. Everyone was seeing their impressions go through the roof, but actual clicks from users were totally flat. It made no sense. Well, now we know why. It was a giant bot bubble, and Google's little change just popped it. And you don't have to just take my word for it. The data tells the story perfectly. Check out this table from SEMrush. After the change, the impression share for the top 10 results, the ones people actually see, shot up by 14%. Meanwhile, the share for results buried down on pages 5 to 10, it got cut in half. The traffic wasn't really gone. It just got redistributed back to reality. Okay, so mystery solved. We found the ghost traffic. But what did this massive data correction actually mean for real businesses and websites out there? Let's trace the ripple effect and see who felt this the most.
So yeah, this is why it really matters. The change didn't hit everyone equally. It disproportionately hammered sites that were getting a lot of these ghost impressions from ranking on page 2 and beyond. Think big content sites, local businesses, and any site that was getting by on just okay content. Their numbers fell off a cliff because their data was the most polluted.
Now, you might be thinking this whole thing sounds like a complete disaster. And for a lot of people, it was a huge disruptive headache. But the story doesn't end there. Many experts are now saying this wasn't a catastrophe. It was actually a much-needed cleanse for the whole industry. So why did Google do it? They never really gave a straight answer, but the leading theories all make a lot of sense. They probably wanted to make it way harder and more expensive for others to scrape their data, to reduce the insane load on their own servers, and maybe, most importantly, to protect their crown jewels, their search data, from competing AI models who were using it for training. And I really love this take from Kristen Ott. He basically reframes the whole thing. He says that losing all this noisy, low-quality data forces everyone to stop obsessing about the top 100 and focus on what really moves the needle, ranking in the top 20, where actual humans are looking. It's a shift from quantity back to quality.
So, at the end of the day, the ghost in the machine was finally busted, and all that chaos actually led to something really positive. The data we have now is cleaner, it's more accurate, and it's much more reflective of real human behavior. The focus is back where it belongs, on reaching actual users.
And that kind of leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question. This whole event was a powerful reminder that so much of what we measure online isn't quite what it seems. And as bots and AI get smarter and more integrated into everything we do, the challenge of telling the difference between what's real and what's artificial is only going to get harder. Definitely something to think about.